Hi, I'm Opal Mitchell. I work for the Central Arkansas Library System and I work at the Nixon branch in Jacksonville. This is the Crafting with Opal program that I do on Thursday nights at 7. Tonight we're going to be doing a Valentine's Day craft. We made available some different wooden Valentine's Day signs that you can paint. And people picked up the signs and paint and paintbrushes from the library, and we're going to paint on those tonight. Even though the library was closed today, we had people pick up the supplies yesterday, so that's what we're going to be working on tonight. I hope everyone's nice and warm in their house out of the cold. This terrible weather we've been having, but anyway, I'm going to get started with that. I'm going to give you some hints and tips on kind of how to do something like this if you want to do it in multiple colors. We'll be using some washi tape to cover up certain areas while we're painting on it. You can use any kind of painter's tape or anything like that to do the same thing. And you can do this with any sign, wooden type sign or wooden craft of any kind that you would buy. I've seen a lot of different neat ones at Walmart before, and you can just give you some tips and hints on how to go about doing multiple colors on these type of signs. I'm going to be working with some white. I hadn't totally decided on the other colors. I'm definitely doing purple and white on the first one. The second sign, I hadn't completely made up my mind what colors I'm going to use on it, but I made available like a pink and a red and a white and purple paints for people to paint their signs. So I'm going to reverse this and show you what we're doing. Alright, tilt this and probably lower this too. There we go. The one that I already started on, this is a neat little sign that I got at Walmart. I've already painted part of it to kind of, because it's got two parts to it, and it's got a little light that you can turn on that's in the middle of it. I did a kind of an example of how I'm going to do the top part. I really think that this one would look better if the entire bottom was white. That way when it shows through and you got the other color on top, it would show up more. I did the purple on the bottom just because I wanted to see how hard it would be to do the white trim and then the purple background, because that's how I wanted to do the top. So it's my way of being able to kind of do that ahead of time to see how that was going to work. Some people have this one, and you kind of really are going to do about the same thing, because if you want certain letters to be certain colors, then we're going to be covering up certain parts while we're painting. And a good thing to do is to, oh, thank you, Paula. I actually found this at the Dollar Tree, which was really neat. Just $1 for one of these. And I found these at Walmart, and they were $2. But when you're painting something like this, if you're going to be using a white paint with darker paint, you really ought to go ahead and paint the white areas first. And kind of like with this one, say you wanted the L to be white and this to be red or pink. Paint your L and come over just a little ways into this area, let it dry, and then say that you wanted the V to be white also. Go ahead and paint that area white also and let it dry and come over in the area a little bit. That way, when you go back to do your darker color, you'll be going over white, so it'll be easier to cover up. And I think that would be a lot easier to do it that way. And then, of course, if you want the E to really show, I mean, you could always kind of do the V out this way. If you wanted the V to cover up the E, you could. It's just kind of how you want your letter, what part's going to be covered up. You kind of decide that ahead of time. But do your white first, or whatever your darker color is first. All right. And with this one, it's got since it was a laser cut, it's got the dark markings. I originally wasn't going to cover that up and went ahead and decided to do that anyway. It was easier to cover it up. Though on the inside of mine, I'm thinking I might like to paint the inside of this white and then try to be really, really careful and do purple over the top. that's what I'm going to try with this one, because I think that would be really interesting to have white showing on the inside. It's just that when you go back over the top with the other color, you got to be careful not to let it go down in that area. But I think that's what I'm going to try with this one. And I think I'm also going to go ahead and do maybe a slightly darker purple on the top instead of the light purple, so the light purple will be able to show through more. So I'm going to go ahead and start with getting my paint out. You want to, if you're going to be mixing colors, go ahead and do that ahead of time and get the colors that you want. I gave everyone, well, I gave them the colors that they picked, but if you want to make a color lighter or darker, I gave you some white to lighten it up, and I gave you some black paint if you wanted to darken a color up. Now, when you're using your black paint to darken something, use very little black paint when you're doing this. Just a little bit at a time, because black darkens it up really fast. I'm going to lower this a little bit. And you don't want to get it all muddied up really fast. So be careful with your black paint when you're mixing to get it darker. The white, sometimes you have to use quite a bit, but just in case, if you're not real sure how it's going to look, kind of add a little bit, see how it looks, and then add a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and put down my purple. And I'm thinking I'm not going to, my purple is a little bit lighter color than the one that I handed out to everyone. I think I gave this purple to everyone that wanted purple. That one you will have to use quite a bit more white to lighten it up, because it's really dark purple. So just, you have some water, and have some toothpicks too handy if you're working with this one, because the paint will go down into these little areas and you'll need to kind of rake it free a little bit. This kind of, this end of this, sometimes you can poke it through if you need to. So get your paintbrush a little wet, and whatever areas that you're going to do in white first, go ahead and get your white ready to paint it. And I'm just going to paint the edges of this. I'm not going to paint the whole thing. I'm going to go over a little ways and then come back. But see how the paint goes down in the little holes? So you will have to use the little toothpicks to kind of to get that, because that's going to happen. Because when you're painting, it's just going to go over it. So I'm going to just paint a little ways in there. And we'll use our tape to kind of, once that area is dry, we'll tape over what we want to, how we want to do the other color. Or you could do all solid on top. You don't have to do a white trim like me. That's, you know, you do it how you want to do it. I'm just kind of showing you some different ways of doing it. And I'm going to have to get my little toothpicks for that area, because the paint is already, and if you let it dry, you can usually just poke it out. Let's see. And I'll have to smooth it over a little bit. If you let it dry, it gets some kind of gunky. Let's see here. And if you were wanting the inside of those areas to be white, you can use your toothpick to kind of move it around. But I really don't want that too much. Or it really doesn't matter to me if it's white on the inside or not. Didn't really mean to get that much paint down in there, but I did. I think it's because I was being kind of fast about my painting. Okay, I'm just going to lay that there. I'm going to wipe off some of the paint and kind of smooth over that area. And like I said, it'll dry down in that hole, and you can kind of push it down in there later with the toothpick. So if you don't want to mess with that too much. You don't really have to. And you just want to come over just a little bit so you'll be able to make a straight line later if you're wanting to do this in a trim like I'm going to do. But the area has to be completely dry before you put the tape on it, because otherwise the tape will pull the paint up. And you can always get, I didn't do this, but I need to go get a blow dryer and use it to dry my areas that I want to dry first. This paint's kind of thick, so I'm adding a little bit of water to it because I'm going to start doing the edges. Oh, I added a little too much water. It's not thick enough now. You want it to cover good. There we go. I watered it down a little too much. And I gave some people combination of brushes. You can use a foam brush or a paintbrush on this. It really doesn't matter. And you will, since this is darker edges, you will have to go over with the white paint a couple of times to cover up the dark color. If it was more of a natural color, it wouldn't be as hard to cover it up. And I've got a little bit of purple on my edges from when I was painting below. Oops. And I really don't care about the underside of it because it's not going to be seen. If that bothers you, you can paint the underside too. It doesn't really bother me because it's really not meant to be seen. And I guess I need to be careful. I've got my purple down there already, my purple paint, and I'm getting my sign really, really close to that. And I'm not being too worried about how good this is covered up. Because we're going to be going over it again. I'm painting kind of underneath because that paint, I could see that paint from above. And you can always, like if you were using your own paint and you had some white gesso paint, you can use white gesso as kind of like a primer. So if you wanted to use it to paint a darker piece of wood ahead of time, so your other color, you wouldn't have to use like multiple layers of your other color that you're going to be putting on top of it. You could always use some gesso paint like a primer before you actually paint it the color you're going to paint it. I'm just getting that paint that went all the way through. Not that it really matters. Okay. Oops. Oh well. That's not a huge deal that I got that. Actually, I'm just going to paint over it because it's just the bottom. There. Yeah. That's alright. And then I also was thinking about painting the inside, so I'm going to do that before I do the top, because I'm going to do the purple on the top, and I think it would look kind of neat if this was not a dark color. I could always just I could change my mind and do purple, but doing the white first kind of makes it easier for the other color to show up on top of it. I may be regretting this because I may not be able to get down in this smaller areas, or I might have to switch to a different brush. Yep. I got a little teeny tiny brush. I might have to switch to that one. Let's see how well one of these little kids' craft brushes work. Oh, not too bad for the wooden stuff. I went ahead and included some of these little kid craft brushes in there too. You don't have to have your fancy brushes that you would if you paint canvases. You don't have to use them for stuff like this, because you're just kind of trying to cover up the area. And it's kind of a stiffer type bristle, so that does pretty good about holding paint for that. And you can get into the smaller areas that way with these little brushes. Don't have to spend a lot of money on fancy brushes for something like this. Alright, so, and like I said, with all these little crevices and stuff, the darker areas, you'll probably have to go over them a couple of times. I'm kind of regretting painting this area now, because it's a small area and it takes a little bit longer to paint it. Trying to think of I don't know, the library. I was going to say you could start signing up tomorrow for next week's project that we're going to be doing, but I'm not entirely sure yet if we're going to be open tomorrow. Haven't heard yet. So I guess you can always call and see tomorrow, because I think they'll have the answering message probably available saying that all the libraries are closed if we are. If so, you could always call on Saturday and sign up for next week. Next week will be, trying to remember, it's I showed it on the video last week. I'll let that dry for a second while I go grab, and I'm getting paint all over my hands. Let's see, trying not to get paint on this project. Let's see, is the paint on my hands dry? I think it is. Okay. It's like a beeswax cover that you put, a beeswax that you melt and put on fabric to turn into like little, like saran wrap type covers for bowls and stuff. So that's for next week. And I'll have supplies available for that. So if you're interested, just like I said, give us a call starting tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be able to come in tomorrow. If not, you can always call Saturday, surely. Hopefully we'll be there by then. I hope this weather doesn't mess too many things up. And you actually will be able to call until like Tuesday of next week to sign up for next Thursday's project to get supplies for it. I'll be giving you some beeswax, pellets, and some fabric. The only thing I won't provide that one of the things you'll need for sure is some scissors, which it's great if you have pinking shears. If not, regular scissors are okay to cut your fabric. I may go ahead and, what fabric I do cut for you, I may go ahead and cut it with some pinking shears, but it's really meant for you to cut it to the size that you want for whatever bowls or whatever you're going to be using them for. I'll try to make it kind of a standard size, I suppose, if you do decide, and try to cut it for you ahead of time. But with that one, you'll need to have scissors and like a cookie sheet and an iron. I think that's the only things that you'll need to have for it. And it's actually a really simple project. I've been wanting to try it out for a long time, because I've seen the ones that you can buy, because I really hate having to use saran wrap and having to throw it away when I get done. I'd love to have something to reuse instead of all that throwaway plastic. And I never saw the actual product, the little beeswax pellets that you could buy. I never knew what to buy exactly. But I found someone on YouTube that had some, and they showed how to do it. And I thought, wow, that's great. And now I know what to buy. So I got some of that for us to try out. On my edges, I didn't go back over the tops here, because when you're painting upwards, it kind of, the paint gets an edge on it, because this I haven't diluted it any, so it's kind of a thick paint. Usually craft paint is a lot thinner than the paint that I'm using. I'm using paint that we usually use on canvas, so okay. Yeah, I really am regretting doing this part here, since it's taken so long. But, oh well. I didn't realize it was so much area to cover with paint. And it does look like that will need to be covered more than once, I believe. And if you are following along with supplies that you got from the library, if you can, once you get done with your project, if you'll post it in the comments of this video, I'd really appreciate it. I'd love to see what how yours turned out, how you did yours. It's really cool to see what other people do. Maybe they'll have something cool like this next year that we can buy. Oh, I did dip that in paint. Got paint on my hands. And we could do some kind of a painting along next year. I'm getting this out of the way so I can get this paint off of my back of my thing here. I knew I'd dip it in the paint there. Having that, I shouldn't have gotten my paint ahead of time before I started painting this. I just thought, oh, I'll be using it soon, so I'll just go ahead and get it ready. Well, that wasn't a good idea. Alright, almost done. These little areas are a lot faster to paint than where the writing was. Let's see. And I probably picked up way too much paint that time. I'm going to spread it around. Alright. I almost keep thinking I'm almost done, but then I forget the eye part. I still have that. Okay. And I'll go over the other edges too. Once we do that, we can paint the top part. I'll show you how to use the, and you can use painter's tape like I said, or you could use, if you got washi tape works well too, because you want something that's not going to pull the paint off, that's kind of sticky but not real sticky when you're putting it on top of your paint to cover up an area. And let's see here. Definitely gonna get paint on you. I'm not used to getting paint all over my hands, because usually when I'm doing like canvases, I get paint on myself, but not this much. But I'm having to hold this, so. Alright, so got it all in there. Covered it up the best I can. Alright. So now I'm going to put that in the water so it doesn't dry up too much on me. And this one I'm going to dip in the water a little bit because I let it sit a little too long. I should have had it in the water. Okay, so, I will have to pick up one for next year. Yeah, this is a fun little easy project. And Walmart had I think these were actually meant for kids, but I thought they were pretty cute because they had some unicorn ones that were like this too. And if you got kids, this is something fun to do with them. They had a bunch of extra things that you could add to it besides just painting it. They had like little sparkly type stickers that you could use on it. Also, just any number of other little additions. Once you've got it painted, things that you could add to it to kind of give it some bling, or I thought that was kind of cute too, that they had different things like that you could put extra on it. And it was just at Walmart they just had it on an end cap. I noticed that at Christmas time too, that they had some cute things on the end caps that were different little craft projects that you could do. The Christmas one I saw that I thought was really cute were felt Christmas ornaments that had all the pieces pre-cut out, and you just put it together and like hand sewed it together. I thought those were pretty cute. They had a lot of different ones like that. I didn't see a price on it though, so I don't know how much they were selling those for. This little wooden thing, like I said, was only $2. There wasn't a price on it where you could see. I had to go do a price check on it to find out how much it was, and I thought, well, that's not too bad. $2. And you just have to have some craft paint and brushes. Not bad little craft project. And if this didn't have this darker color on the edges, it wouldn't be so hard to cover this up. And I'm only going to go over it one more time real quick just so I can show y'all. And I'm going to grab my blow dryer here in a minute to kind of dry it faster so I can show you how to do the top part by covering up the areas that you don't want to paint with the tape. And because I can always redo these edges again. Yeah, not bad at all for the prices there. Let's see. I think I do need to go over the top just a little bit, because some of this does look has the wood color still to it. I'm going to get a little bit of water in my brush there. Because like I said, I'm not using craft paint. I should have gotten some craft paint because it's a little bit thinner and easier to work with, not so thick like this paint that you use for painting on a canvas. Even though I probably won't have to go over it as much with this since it is thicker paint. It'll cover up the wood a little bit better than the craft paint with the fewer applications. Okay. I'll have to run off and get my blow dryer. I wish I'd thought to bring it before I started. Okay, so I'm going to set that there. Might even try to clean my hands off a little bit because I probably don't need to be touching the blow dryer with all this paint on my hands. I'll be back in just a moment. Let me go get that blow dryer. Lucy. Yeah, I'm still videoing. Okay. Alright, moves, Lucy. I gotta sit down. Okay. Got the blow dryer. Let me see if I can find a way to plug it in here. Okay. Move this camera just a tiny bit. My hands are still wet from trying to clean my hands. I didn't do a very good job of cleaning it. Alright, I'm going to move this off camera while I'm blow drying it because it'll be easier to do it that way. Oh, and by the way, when you're blow drying paint, don't use the heat. Use just the air setting because it'll discolor the paint if you use heat to blow dry it. Okay. Oh, my dog is coughing. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm going to, since I've got all these little hole areas that the paint was pooling in, I'm going to kind of get it out of there so it's not gunked up in there. And before it's too terribly dry, because if it dries, it sometimes makes it a little more difficult to get it out of there. Okay. And the ones that have the flat sign, you won't have as much of a problem with that, because you won't have little areas like that it's going to go into. Probably need a few more toothpicks to get all of this, but I'll work with what I've got. I had a lot of paint in there. Okay, let's see. I think I pretty well got most of it. I can always fix that some more later. If you want to get real, let's see, picky about how it looks. Let's see. I'm going to move that over there. My camera's kind of turned a little bit, so I'm going to turn it back over here. Alright, so now that it's pretty well dry, I'm going to rinse out my brush. And it's always good to keep a couple of things of water, one that's dirty water and one that's clean, because the water gets dirty really fast and keeps you from having to change out your water too much. Let's see, I got majority of the paint out of it in one, and then I'll use the other one to kind of really clean it a little bit better. Alright, so I'm going to have to be a little more careful with this part. I'm going to move this blow dryer here. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out where I can lay it down without it being in the way. Okay. All right, and so this one, I'm going to throw that toothpick away. Since I don't want to get down in the areas that I've painted white, I'm going to have to be a lot more careful. And I don't want to get purple around the edges. So now that, let me make sure it's nice and dry. If you got some washi tape, that one's a little too wide, so I think I'm going to use this one. You can tape over the areas that you want to keep from getting paint on there. So I want to tape over the area that I don't want any paint on it. So make sure it's fairly straight. I'm going to look, is that too far up? I think so. I want it a little bit further down. Let's see. That's about right. And make sure it's straight though. Yeah, that looks pretty straight. Okay, so I've got that taped down. Oops, now it's splitting on me. I don't want it splitting, so let me tear off that part that's split. Okay. And this is going to be, you're not going to get all the edges exactly the way you want them. You just want the main areas. You can always straighten them up more later. Let's see. Because when I get on the curved areas, it's going to be a straight line instead of a curved area. So I'm just going to cover up more of the white than what I want to. And then I can, once I pull the paint up, I can give it more of a curved look to it. So let's see. I think I got not a little bit further away. Okay. All right. And you may have to do this several times to kind of get enough of it covered that you want it covered. Because like I said, this is a rounded edge. So I'm just covering it more than what I want. And I can, like I said, I can fix the edge whenever I come back. And I just ran my hand into the white paint. There we go. Wipe it off a little bit. I guess I really shouldn't be. I should have moved the paint out of the way while I was doing this, probably. Let's see. Maybe covered up more than what I wanted to. I have to use these little small pieces around here. Even smaller than that. Well, I don't want... Here, let me turn this over so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. I have those, it's not a straight edge. I probably should use some scissors. See, I don't quite want that. Let me turn it upside down. maybe. This one's tricky. A little bit tricky there. Because I get, the way I tear it, I end up with a little of an edge on there. Okay, that's a little bit better. I'll have to definitely go over those areas a little bit differently whenever I go to paint it later. I'll leave that laying down. You can kind of get an idea of how I'm doing this. And you can do this with two hands better than one, because I'm having to hold the tape with one hand and then tape it down with another. Alright. So once you get your edges taped down, the parts that you don't want to get the purple paint on, I'm going to wet my brush just a little bit and drag off a little bit. I'm going to move this so I don't get anything on me. And I'm going to use this purple without the adding the white to it like I did whenever I had it on the bottom, because I wanted it to be a little bit darker. And so I'm going to be careful because I do not want to get down in the areas that I did the white paint. So I'm going to go around the edges very carefully. And say you painted a certain color and you're like, you can always paint over it if you're not real thrilled. And it looks like this is going to be kind of, I probably should have done what I did when I did the bottom part. Because you can kind of see through this paint a little bit. When I did the bottom, I painted it white first, and then I went over it with the purple. I think that was a good idea, because I'm going to have to paint this up here. Yeah, because see how the white kind of shows through up here? That would have been a better idea, to just paint everything white, and then I think that the color would have showed up better if I had done a base coat of white and then went over it with the purple. Yeah, because you can see through it. It's darker, but then that white that I did on the edges, it's showing through. But I think it should cover up once I go over it again. So you're going to, no matter what you do, you're going to have to paint it multiple times. I think the color would show it much better. Now, if you were using a darker paint like that really dark purple that I gave, this may not happen to you. My white is not covered up real good down there, but that's okay. You're not going to see that a whole lot. So yeah, that would have been better if I had went ahead and done the white base first and then went over it with my darker color, because this is, I think I keep dipping my thing in, nope, the paint. I keep trying to get it closer to the camera, and because this maybe I shouldn't have my camera tilted so much. Have it up a little bit more. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So, yeah, definitely, if you are working on your other sign and you were doing white areas in certain areas first, I would just go ahead and do the entire thing in white paint and then go back and do your other colors after that. Because this is going to not quite, let's see. Yep. You definitely are going to have to do that. Because that white is really showing through. Or what I might do is do this purple and I have an even darker purple. I might go over it with my darker purple and use this as my base paint. Because the paint on this dark purple that I'm using is not very dark. I wonder if I should just go ahead and stop and do the white paint on it instead of doing this whole thing in purple. I wonder how that would look. I could dry it real quick and go over with the white paint. Let's see. Because it's drying already pretty quick. Let's see. Okay, let's do that. That white sure does cover it up better. And the white paint, you know, you don't have to put more than one coat of it on there before you put your other coat on it. And since I already had my tape down there, I'm just going over it with the tape still on there. I need a little bit of water because my white paint is a little thick. Yeah, once we get this base coat on there, definitely will work better. And it's mixing a little bit with the purple that was on there, but I'm not too worried about that. So FYI, when you're doing that, anything like this, it's a good idea if you're going to be working with this type of paint to go ahead and do a white base coat on there before you get started. Because you're going to need more than one coat of paint anyway, so. I've never really done a wooden sign before, so, or painted anything wooden before. I knew I was going to sit that down in that paint again. I sure did. I'm good at that. Let's see if I can wipe it off my fingers. There we go, and I'll just stick my fingers in the water over here and rinse it off. And be sure to be wearing something over your clothes when you're painting, because you're bound to get stuff on your clothes while you're painting. So it's a good idea to kind of cover up. Let's see. I wonder if I put my water over here, if that'll keep me from putting it in there. Probably not, but I could try, right? Try to prevent myself from doing that. So yeah, definitely a white base coat first before you put your other color on, and just use blow dryer to dry the paint faster. And don't use the heat setting when you're using your blow dryer for sure. That will mess up your paint. Okay, so it looks like mine's mostly covered. I'm going to use my toothpick again around these areas that I kind of got a lot of paint. To smooth it down a little bit. Alright, and I might do that again. Just a quick one. And then I'll blow dry it. Today, since we were stuck in the house, I had some scone mix. I love scones. And I fixed some of those while we were stuck in the house. It's like, I was glad I had some. I picked up, there's a one that I really like that not Tuesday morning. I love Tuesday morning, but they didn't have it. It was TJ Maxx or Marshall's has them sometimes, yeah. And it's a really good brand of scone mix, and it's one of the best ones I've ever found that's a mix that you don't have to make up yourself. You just add water to it. All right. I'm going to blow dry this and see how it's going to look. All right, where did I put my blow dryer? Oh, there it is. Okay. Kind of touch it to make sure it's dry. I'm going to rinse off my brush again. Off to the side here. I'll lay that down for a second. And then I'll use my cleaner water to clean it off even more. I have these little things down in the water that you brush your... They're supposed to stick to the bottom because they have a suction cup, but they come loose all the time. But anyway, it helps knock loose the... They have the little nubby things that you run your brush over, and it helps knock the paint loose a little bit faster for you. Okay, so let's try this paint again with the white base coat on there and see how it does. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's the paint or... I'm not real crazy about how it's covering. I do not like this. Why is this not working? I guess since this is not working very well, I guess it worked better on the bottom because I had some white mixed in with my paint. So I'm going to go ahead and mix a little bit of white with my purple. I knew getting the same shade purple as the one underneath was going to be kind of hard, but I'm just going to add a little bit and see. I've got some white left. I'll mix it with the purple and see what I get. Because it's not doing very well by itself. I thought it would be okay since I had it done the white base coat, but nope. It's a little, the paint itself is a little too translucent, and I think that's the problem. Okay, and then some of this paint is gunking up on my brush as I mix it. See how it's gunking up on my brush? It's, I'm going to squeeze it out of my brush. I'm like, why? It's gotten all... I guess my paint was getting kind of solid. Yeah, it was drying and getting... got it all over my hands now trying to... Okay, that might be better. But I'm going to have to rinse my fingers off. I'm going to go ahead and get that little brush out of there. Sorry. Making a big mess over here. Trying to get the paint off my hands. And using one hand to do it. Glad I kept a bunch of old towels nearby. Okay. My air plugs fell out and I missed what you were saying about a mix. Oh yeah, the thing at the bottom of my jar, I'm trying to remember what they called them. It's, let's see. I've got another one that's not in water right now. This is what it looks like. It's a little silicone thing that's got a suction cup on the bottom, and you stick it to the bottom of your water, and then you just drag your brush across the little nubs, and they're real flexible, and it knocks the paint loose out of your paintbrush really good. Oh, a paint puck is what they're called. And they have different ones. These are just the little ones that you can put inside of whatever jars that you use. Yeah, I thought they were pretty cool. They got, I think I saw an advertisement for one on Facebook one day. And I was a little skeptical at first. I wasn't sure if that was a good thing or not, you know. And what really got my attention was, here, let me move this down here so I could show it to you. They have a big paint puck thing here. I got a bunch of paintbrushes on it right now, but this is what I really like. It's all like the bottom piece is all one piece, and then this plastic thing goes down into it, and then you have this piece that goes on top that holds your brushes, which is kind of cool. This is almost, I think, $30 for this, but I only wanted one of these because it holds your brushes so you can hold them upside down while they dry. And that's a good thing about brushes. You want them to dry with the bristles down because you don't want the water going up in the ferrule area and messing up your paintbrush. And then you can also put paint on the edges of this. This is all silicone. And you can mix paints on the edges, and when it's real dry, you can just peel it off. But yeah, and whenever you're drying your brushes, you can drag them across the edge here, and it helps squeegee out the water out of them stuff. But I like this one a lot. I use this one whenever I'm doing my painting my canvases and stuff. And I like the little individual ones like this for other painting type things and stuff. I think I found them on Amazon. But what I was talking about with my paint, this pure purple I was using, just this one, it must not have a lot of pigment in it, because when I was painting just with it, it ends up being kind of translucent. See how you can see through it? So I'm mixing it with my white paint so it won't be as translucent. See how it does a lot better job of covering it, and it's not as translucent when I mixed it with the white paint. So sometimes the cheaper paints are kind of like that, and you have to mix them with other colors to keep them from being translucent and see-through like that. So I didn't realize that this paint was like that, so I was trying to paint it without having something mixed with it, but it's a cheaper paint, so that's why that happened. So sometimes you get that with the cheaper paints, so you do have to kind of mix them with a white color, and sometimes you have to do like a white base coat also to keep it from being that way. And I think I still am going to have to paint this multiple times to really cover it, because it's still a little bit translucent. You can still kind of see through it. So I thought I was doing good and I wasn't going to have to paint this several times, but I'm going to anyway, it looks like. And the only bad thing about painting it so many times, my edges are going to look funny. I'm going to have raised edge from painting this other area so many more times too, so, but oh well. I can paint it again, I guess, and fix my edges. It's not going to work out quite the way I wanted it to, but you learn as you go sometimes when it's something new like this. And my middle section's a lot darker because I've went over it a few times with paint, different coats of paint too. I wonder how this would have done if I'd used craft paint, because it's a lot thinner than the paint that I'm using. Ooh, I should have added so much water to my brush. That's really... Yeah, that's really, I added too much water to my brush there. There we go. Alright. I will go over these areas again, and you're seeing streaks and stuff too, because it's, yep. But this middle section has a better coat to it because I've went over it a few times. You do have to let each layer dry, and for it to, mine's kind of streaky. Oh, there's some white from the... Alright, I'm going to blow dry this a little bit more, so this will do better. Maybe one more coat hopefully will work. Uh-oh. One of my one of my dogs thinks someone knocked or something, I guess. I'm going to clean my brush a little bit. I am not liking how this is turning out. Let's see. I got a lot of paint on this paintbrush. Uh-oh. My paintbrush was trying to come apart. It's one of my cheaper brushes that I have. Okay. The paint was kind of gunked up on it, so I cleaned it off quite a bit. Okay, so let's see. If we can do one last coat of paint and get this done. But we won't be completely done since I have to peel the paint off the edges and kind of fix that up. That'll be the hardest part. That will take the longest, is if you're wanting your edges to look just right. I guess you could always have skipped that and just done it all one color. And this paint will dry a slightly different color than what it looks like whenever it's wet. It looks a little bit darker when it's wet. I think I've just pretty much, yeah, I didn't paint the inside of it very many times with that white paint, so the white paint's not really showing up on the inside, but that's okay. I think I was trying to do too many things with this. Okay. I think I covered it all pretty good. Well, nope. Down there I didn't. When I tilt it different directions, I could see different things. And there, that U area, there's paint down in there. I wonder what everyone's going to be doing for Valentine's Day, since really can't. They were saying on TV that most people, since they can't really go out to dinner like they used to, they're buying like more flowers, and like the sales of flowers went up like 48% this year because more people were buying flowers because they couldn't go out to eat. Thought that was kind of interesting. People doing more maybe crafty things for each other too, like this possibly, I don't know. Alright, so I'm going to dry it one more time, and then I'm going to clean my brush off a little bit too, and then we'll peel that paint tape off and see, the washi tape, and see what it looks like. is not going to look real great because I had to go over with the paint so many different times on mine that there's going to be a really big edge of paint on the edge here. Well, maybe it won't be as noticeable. Here, I'm going to, rather than putting each piece in the trash, I'm going to lay it down there. I got up higher than what I meant to. I should have been more careful with my tape. And that will make a difference on the placement of your tape. So keep that in mind too. I was trying to be hurried in the way that I did mine since I was doing this live. Okay. That's not too bad. It's got points and stuff to it. But what you can do is you just get a smaller brush and go around the edges and smooth out those corners that you've got. And if you used the smaller brush and was a lot more careful about the edges, then you can get on the inside too. You would just need a smaller one, like, let's see here. I'm trying to find some that... If you got a smaller one about like this, this is a lot more delicate, so you could do a lot more smaller areas and painting, and you could be a lot more careful. This would be a really good one to go around these edges to smooth them out, and I would use the purple right in here, and then when you get really, really close to these where it's got into the white, just go over it with your white paint and just smooth it, and you can just curve your edges better. But the tape helps you kind of eliminate a lot of the work of having to redo it. I'll show you kind of how. I guess it did end up being a lot darker pink or purple than it was on the inside. I guess y'all can't see that as much, but I would have preferred to have this white in the background. I think that would have looked quite a bit cuter than having purple with purple on the front. It would just showed up better. But like I said, I did the purple on the back side just so I could see how it would be like doing the front side. So that's how you would do that. If you're wanting to do the different little edges and stuff. And I'm trying to put that other paintbrush back up over there. And if you had this love sign, like I said, a good way to do like the big signs like this, paint it all white first. I'm going to try to throw this stuff away. Paint it all white first, the entire thing. So that way whenever you go back over the areas that you want to be the darker colors, it'll work out better because it'll have a base coat down there. And then if you do the edges of these, this is like pressed, it's not real wood, it's fake wood. The only real wood's kind of like on the top of this one. This is going to absorb a lot of paint. So using a cheaper, maybe white paint, like a gesso or a white, like, you know, it's how you can buy a big bottle of white paint in the, oh, let's see. Here we go. Buy like a big bottle of like that, the craft paint that you can get like at Walmart. Use something like that that's fairly inexpensive to go around the edges of a sign like this, because like I said, it's going to absorb a lot of paint because it's pressed wood and it's not real wood. So if you do want to do your edges, I would definitely go with a cheaper paint like this to go over the whole thing first several times, and then like what I did with my washi tape. And it does pay to actually have the more expensive washi tape. I bought some for work that was off of Amazon that was really inexpensive, and it's not very good washi tape. When you pull it back up, if you left it on something for a little bit, it leaves a sticky residue. This right here is actually worked out really well. This is a lot better washi tape. And I got this a Tuesday morning. You know, and they usually have stuff cheaper, and so it's a better washi tape for a lot cheaper than what you'd buy in the store. But I think Walmart you can get some washi tape fairly inexpensive. And I think why this paintbrush was trying to come apart on me is I might have got water down in this area, and you're not supposed to, and it can come loose. And that's what I think was happening to that. So yeah, so whenever you're doing this one, I figure I shouldn't have to show you exactly how to do it, but like I said, go over the entire thing in a base paint, like a white paint. Once you got that done, figure out what colors you want and tape off where you don't want your paint to go. Like if you wanted to do this a different color and this a different color, just tape off that area like I did with the other little light up sign. And then you can go back and fix and give it more of a curved look to it once you've got a chance to get it to dry. Like with this one, like I said, you can go around the edges with the dark purple first, and then where it's kind of gotten to the white too much, you can go back with your white paint and then smooth out that edge so it's not so pointed. Alrighty. Oop, I had the sign. I had left a little light on that one. Okay, well that's it for tonight, and next week, I'm going to back up here. Next week we'll be doing this project, which is, it's a beeswax type thing, where you melt the little wax and you put it on fabric. That's what this is, it's just fabric. And you can use it as a resealable, like, thing instead of saran wrap, and you can use it over and over again. I think the lady said you could get 150 uses out of one of these, which is about using it for about a year before you can toss it, and it's biodegradable, which is kind of cool. Well, thank you, Paula. I'm glad you like them. I'm hoping next month. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I'm going to do a paint-along, a superhero paint-along type thing, because the first week in March is a celebration of Will Eisner Week. That's kind of like a nationwide thing, and Will Eisner, he's kind of like considered the godfather of graphic novels, and so he kind of coined the phrase graphic novel. And, well, honestly, when I was doing research on him for a project one time, I found out he wasn't the first one to use the word graphic novel as referred to as comic books, but in a book form. But he was the first one to use the phrase and it actually stick. And that's why they call him the godfather of graphic novels. But anyway, they're celebrating him the first week in March. And I decided to do how to paint your superhero for that week for my Crafting with Opal. And I'm also going to do how to make a basic granny square. Oh, cool. I'm glad someone would like to do that. Yay. Let me show you an example of what I did for that. Let's see. I'm going to show people how to just take like a sketch or a drawing of a superhero. And this was a sketch. Let's see here. I found a sketch or a drawing of this. And I'm going to show you how to convert it into a painting. And any like superhero that you like, or any superhero you have designed yourself, kind of show you how to go about transferring and making it into a painting. Because the great thing about cartoon characters or superheroes or comic book characters are they're more like two-dimensional and flat, so they're a little bit easier to paint when you're new to crafts and stuff. So it'll be real easy to show you how to take one of those and turn them into a painting. But it's always good to go with like a headshot of the character, though, because if you try to do a whole body, there's a little too much going on with that. So it's always better to start small. So we'll do that, and then a granny square the next week, and the week after that in March, we're they're going to do a special program that night at 6 for this any of the kids and stuff that are in high school that are looking towards what to do after high school. They're going to have a big panel put together to do this live Zoom program for them to figure out what they want to do after high school. So we won't really be doing crafting with Opal that week. And that's the third Thursday in March. And then the last Thursday in March, I'm just going to do a sewing class for a basic tote bag. And the great thing about this little tote bag is it's a really simple one that you can kind of convert into any kind of bag you want, and you could almost make it into a box shape bag for like an Easter bag type thing if you wanted to. So I'm going to play with that one a little bit and show you different ways of doing that project. So I'll switch over here. So that's going to be it for tonight, and that's what we're doing next week with the beeswax and the fabric. So until then, I'll see y'all next time. And if you want to sign up for the supplies for next week, just you can start calling either tomorrow. You'll have it from tomorrow until Tuesday of next week to sign up for the supplies for that one. So bye for tonight. See y'all next time.